Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to GEEXX Reads. Today I'm going to talk about not just A Fine and Pleasant Misery by Patrick McManus, which you will hear, but also most of his collected works, of which I have 4 of his books. They Shoot Canoes, Don't They? Never Sniff a Gift Fish, and The Grasshopper Trap. The reason I talk about them is because McManus did not necessarily write books. He did write a series of detective books, but that's separate. I wasn't aware of those till I actually started looking up stuff about this. McManus was a editor and columnist of the magazines Field and Stream and Outdoor Life, mostly writing humorous stories about the outdoors. The stories are semi-autobiographical. McManus, his father died when he was 6, and though his mother did eventually remarry, he was raised mostly by his mother, his older sister, his grandmother, and the host of colorful characters that he knew around town. All the characters in his books are based on real people from his childhood and from his adult life. And these books are just collected of his short stories that are in the magazines that he worked for and edited and wrote for. So I'm not much of an outdoorsman. I don't particularly like being outdoors, but I did do as a child my fair share of camping. My parents dragged me along, so I can definitely understand a lot of the comments going on here. McManus has a very dry wit, and his stories are absurdly exaggerated examples of what living as a poor kid in the woods was like. I mean, as you could probably tell from the titles, A Fine and Pleasant Misery is a short story in this book, basically about the basic premise of that particular short story is that the more miserable you are, the better the camping trip is. And it's these goofy tales that he tells in such a I say they're exaggerated, but it's also somewhat, you can tell where the story comes from. You can tell he had some real experiences, because you couldn't without, he's obviously been on camping trips where it rained and there was bugs and the food got spoiled and whatever happened. You can tell he's been camping. You can tell he's experienced these things. He just takes them to the most absurd level possible. And that's what all of his stories are kind of about. They're these recollections of his life. He has the stories mostly take place either in his childhood or with his adult camping friends. He's got his childhood friend. There's this old woodsman, Rancid Crabtree, his older sister who torments him, his grandmother who's full of folksy wisdom, his mother who's oblivious to his childhood needs, and just doing things for his own good. And the goofy stuff he gets at, the adventures that he gets into with his friends, and listening to the advice of old Rancid Crabtree, so named because he refuses to wash. He calls his dog Strange, his dog who would, instead of barking to warn away a thief, would invite them in, show them where the silver is, and then ask for his cut. I really enjoyed these stories. The stories of him as an adult camper are much the same. He has this quirky little brand of friends, some of who are like him, and one who is the rich person of the group who never camped as a kid, has no idea what camping is about, and just has money to throw away on expensive camping equipment. These are fun stories. I've been out. I mean, I grew up a poor kid in the woods with nothing to do. As much as I would rather be as a kid have been in front of the television, my mother would kick me out of the house because it was for my own good. And so I'd be forced to wander the woods by myself, or if I ran into someone that I knew, we'd throw rocks at trees and break dead branches off trees and break those, stupid stuff that kids would do in the woods when they're bored. Some of the stuff he talks about in his stories I've done, I've experienced, so I can definitely appreciate them for what they are. And I can tell that he lived, he loved the outdoors and being outdoors, which I did not, but there's enough similarity that I can appreciate the humor. And even if I couldn't, these are well told stories. These are funny. I found these in high school, probably like a sophomore or junior in high school. One of my high school buddies, showed me, I think, this first book, Fine and Pleasant Misery. I read it and I laughed my ass off. I just sat up in my room just holding my stomach and laughing. And then I immediately went out and bought every book of his I could find. He actually, I haven't bought any of his books in a while. There's actually, in researching this, he's got like 15 collected works. I think one of them is a compilation of his, like a larger bound compilation of like his first 3 books. But, he was writing up. He was writing up until like 2012. I think he died in like 2018. But he was working, into the 20 teens, still writing, still working, and if you're an outdoorsman, if you like being outdoors, you are going to enjoy these because they are some of the most funny and absurdist takes on being an outdoorsman that I've ever read. People have compared him to Mark Twain. More Mark Twain, or more as Samuel Clemens as the social commentator. He was a very dry, humorous person. Doesn't show up in his writings as much, more as his books, much as his personal comments and about politics and human life. But it is certainly a take on being an outdoorsman that I highly enjoyed and found was so funny. And they're also, they're not very long. Each book has maybe like 8 to 10 stories in it, and they're fairly short. So, it's not deep. It's not time consuming. It's just something to, you got 5 or 10 minutes to kill before dinner. Pick up and read a story, and just giggle to yourself until the rice is done. Highly recommend these books. They are so much fun. As always, thanks for watching. As always, this is crap. And until next time, good hunting.